Guys, you'll never believe this, but I am in line to pre-order an Xbox Series X. Yeah, that's right. I know what you're saying. Bander, the showcase is today. Why would you be pre-ordering it today? But that's the thing. I know for a fact, for sure, they gotta put the pre-orders today. Because when that Xbox showcase goes off and all those cool games get revealed, they're gonna be like, pre-orders now, and everyone's gonna be like, pre-orders, gotta get the Xbox. It's gonna be so cool. So I'm getting ahead of the game because I am so confident that this Xbox showcase is gonna blow people away that I am already in line pre-ordering. I don't even need to watch it because I know those games, Halo Infinite, it's gonna be so amazing. So here I am in line, ready to pre-order it. Did you hear? They showed a Halo Infinite, and the brutes, they look like crap. What? The brutes look like crap? Oh my god, they ruined it! They ruined Halo! I hate this. Xbox sucks. That's it. I'm changing sides. You all can play your shit consoles with your shitty Halo games, and I'm gonna go play a real game for real gamers. See you later, nerds. Wake up, everybody, because it is finally time to talk about the Xbox Game Showcase. I am your expert on having opinions, Banner Sen, speaking to you at my lovely apartment, and I just wanted to take some time to review all the stuff that we saw at the Xbox Game Showcase. We saw a ton of games, it was a great showcase, and I think I am finally ready to make a big decision in my life, and that is, of course, what console am I buying this holiday season? We got two options. We got the PlayStation 5, we got the Xbox Series X, and I'll say it, I could buy both if I wanted to. I made so much money off the turnip game. I am loaded. And I know these cardboard boxes behind me may speak otherwise, but I promise you, I have big bell money here. Do I actually want to buy both consoles? That remains to be seen. Let's get into the games. The first one that we have to talk about is, of course, Halo Infinite. It's the big game. It's the day one launch title. It's the showpiece, the center of Xbox's entire ecosystem. I gotta say, the game didn't look exactly how I thought it would look. I kind of expected something a bit more grandiose, something with bigger graphics, and I think that Halo Infinite didn't exactly come through. And I think for a showcase focused on Xbox Series X games, I think you need to have something a bit more grandiose for the first game you're showing off. Now, I encourage everyone to go check out that Digital Foundry video where they went in depth and talked about all the shortcomings of the Halo Infinite demo, especially the lighting, and the justification with the art styles, and to really get a good opinion on what's going to be coming and hopefully coming in the future with the ray tracing update. I didn't think it looked as good as it could have, but as far as the gameplay style looks, I'm very impressed with what I saw. I'm really looking forward to an open world Halo. I think that is awesome. I think that's exactly what the series needed. I wasn't entirely thrilled with the Halo 4 campaign, and I never even got into the Halo 5 campaign because I didn't hear great things about it. So I'm excited to see what an open world Halo kind of looks like. But recently we also found out that the multiplayer is going to be free to play, which is also crazy and awesome. And it really shows sort of that Halo is going to be a big showpiece and big platform for the Series X in the future. And because it's on Game Pass, anyone can play it, especially it's free to play. Console, PC, xCloud, whatever you want. That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm really excited. The big question is that does it sell the Series X? And I think with the graphical issues that we saw of it, it kind of doesn't. And it's kind of a shame because you would want that big showpiece console title to really sell it to you, but because, of course you can play it on any other platform, you don't necessarily need the Series X. It kind of unsells me on the Xbox Series X for their big showpiece title to not be as showpiecey as it could be. Now, granted, I don't think they care that much about it. I think that they just want you in the platform in general, but for me, I think that is definitely a knock against the Series X, but definitely a plus for Xbox Game Pass, which is definitely feels like their big focus here as well. I think this was a showcase for Game Pass and not necessarily for Series X. Of course, next I want to talk about the other first-party titles showcased here. We had State of Decay 3, we had Hellblade 2, we had Everwild, we had Forza, Avowed, and Fable. And I want to get to Avowed and Fable a little bit later, but let's talk about Hellblade first. It was a little weird to me that they didn't show anything new from the gameplay, and all they had to talk about was that it was going to be set in Iceland. To me, I feel like if you're not going to show anything truly new, why show it at all? Just leave it for a later date and make that more special. Moving on to State of Decay 3, I'm not super interested in the zombie survival games, so it's cool that it's on Game Pass, but it's not exactly the game for me. I'm not usually a big fan of cinematic trailers, and for State of Decay, I think it's a series that needs to entice players with new ideas and new things versus, you know, just a cinematic trailer showing, hey, it's in the snow, I guess. I think that the current player base is probably very happy, but for newcomers, I don't know if they showed anything that really would entice people to come aboard. Next, with Forza, again, not a game that I'm super interested in, but it's cool that it's here, and it seems like they're building a platform similar to Halo by not giving it an actual numbered title. I think a big problem with a lot of these games, especially with the three that I've talked about, is a issue of release dates. And the fact that they're showing these big cinematic trailers with no real release dates in sight, it's kind of weird to me. And the other big thing is that these games don't have the Xbox One logo attached to them, which tells us that these are Xbox Series X only games. And they said that Xbox One games would still be supported for a couple years. So are these games a couple years away? If so, that's kind of strange to be talking about them now and not something that's coming within the next year or so. I'm sure they've got stuff to show, and I'm sure that a couple of these games are probably a lot closer than they seem, but it's still strange. Next, I want to talk about Everwild, the game by Rare that was talked about last year in a big cinematic showpiece title that made you think, wow, that's really cool. I can't wait to see what this game actually turns out. And you probably would have expected there to be a bit more information in this presentation, but there wasn't. It was another cinematic trailer. And again, no release date in sight. How far away is this game? I have no idea. I do have thoughts about what this game could be, and I'm actually excited to see what that game actually turns into, which I'll probably do on a separate video. But for now, it's kind of weird that they didn't tell us really anything about the game, just kind of relied on another cinematic. Looks pretty, though. Very pretty. The last thing I want to talk about in this section is, of course, Fable. Which Fable, it's so cool that this game is back. I think they picked a great studio for this game. We're finally in a place where the original visions of Fable can finally come to fruition with this new Fable title. I'm glad that they're just calling it Fable and not like Fable 4 or anything like that, so it seems like sort of a reboot, but still kind of holding on to the core elements of the franchise. I think that if the other first-party titles in this showcase had more definitive release dates and gameplay shown, I think Fable would have been a bigger hit as the last one more thing, but because it's kind of held back by the other games before it, it doesn't feel as impactful. It just feels like another game that they had cinematic trailer for, no release date in sight, and no gameplay. And that leads me into the last first-party title, and more importantly, the developer behind it, who I think may have been the developer of the whole showcase, the big winner, Obsidian. Obsidian came out and showed 3 games, which is crazy to me. They showed the DLC for Outer Worlds, which isn't coming to Game Pass, which is okay, whatever. I really liked Outer Worlds, so I'm excited to see what they have for the DLC. They showed Grounded, which I recently got a chance to play, and it was so cool. I was really enjoying it. I think the fact that you are tiny in this giant world with giant bugs coming at you is very intense and very awesome, and not an experience I've ever had before. I'm actually really interested to see where that game goes. And then they come out with a trailer for Avowed, which is gives you a lot of Elder Scrolls vibes. It's clearly an action RPG from Obsidian, who you know is great with their action RPGs. And I think for them to come out with 2 games showing gameplay, release dates, all kinds of cool stuff, I think this really hit. And I think it's very different than some of the other cinematic trailers we had because, you know, obviously, can't expect Obsidian releasing a game last year, DLC for that game this year, and a new game this year to come out with gameplay for their next game. So I think that it hits a lot better than some of the other games did. I, for one, am very excited for Avowed, and I think that this, along with Fable and potentially Everwild, are the big reasons to own an Xbox Series X. When you're looking at Forza, I think that you're looking at a very, not annualized franchise, because it's been a little while since the last Forza, but a franchise that you see multiple entries in, and that doesn't necessarily mean a big jump from game to game. And with State of Decay, I think that they've had some struggles in the past with getting that game to launch as good as it could be, so I don't necessarily know if that's a big showpiece title or a reason to buy the Xbox Series X. But with Fable, with Everwild, potentially, and Avowed, I think that they have 3 really good core titles. Obviously, Hellblade 2. The only problem is that these games are very far away, and I think that could really bite them in the upcoming year when it comes to what PlayStation is putting out, but, you know, that remains to be seen with COVID and all this other stuff that's affecting development cycles. The last game I wanted to talk about is a game that I feel like could be a big showpiece title for Xbox, and that's The Medium. This game looks amazing. It looks so gorgeous, and the fact that they're rendering 2 simultaneous worlds at once, it is the one game that truly looks next gen that no other game does. And even comparing to Sony, I think the only thing comparable on Sony's end is Ratchet and Clank, in the fact that they're jumping between worlds so quickly. But to render 2 completely separate worlds at the same time is very, very impressive. It's really, really cool. And I heard that this game was originally supposed to be a Wii U game, and I can totally understand why that would be. But obviously that didn't pan out. This game could be very short from the looks of it, being a launch title for the console, but because of Game Pass, who cares if they're short? Because you're not paying anything extra for them. It's just it's something on the side that could be huge, could not be. It's not hurting anyone if it's not. And I think that's very important for Xbox to have. It's the one game that I feel like is next gen and is a big showcase title that is coming at launch, and that's really cool. But did Microsoft do enough to convince me to purchase a Series X? When you look at Sony's side of things, they did. Miles Morales, Kena Bridge of Spirits, and some of their other indie games look amazing. But what do we have on the Microsoft side? We've got Halo Infinite, which seems like a game that you could enjoy just as well on any other platform. You've got a bunch of first-party titles that look to be very far away, and then of course The Medium, which is a beautiful looking game, but might fall prey to launch title syndrome. With all that said, Xbox hasn't convinced me to buy a Series X at launch. And if there's no big reason to own the Series X at launch, it's going to give Sony quite an advantage going forward into 2021. But of course that points to Xbox's biggest advantage, which is Game Pass. This showcase was a giant advertisement for why you needed Game Pass. And for me, I'm in that ecosystem. I'm a Game Pass subscriber. And I definitely don't have any reason to leave, but I also don't have any reason to upgrade. And while I think Xbox Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, it doesn't necessarily guarantee the best games in gaming. If you look at what Sony's offering, they've got a lot of potential this year. But when you look at what Microsoft has, they have a lot of potential next year, if that. As far as the games on Sony's side that I'm really interested in, obviously there's Miles Morales, a sequel to my favorite game of 2018. You've got Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is a game that, being a fan of Zelda-type games and platforming-type games, this looks like a combination of everything that I love. Sony seems to have those big Game of the Year candidates, those 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s that just define a console generation. And I think Xbox relies on Game Pass, so they don't necessarily have to have that conversation, but I also think it's important that a platform has those Game of the Year candidates, those games that make you go, wow, games are awesome. I think Halo is that kind of title, and I think it will be at launch, that kind of title, but because it's on Game Pass and it's free to play multiplayer, it's even better. That player base is going to be huge, and that's really good for Halo. I think Avowed and I think Fable and potentially Everwild are those premium games that could be those big Game of the Year candidates. It's not all doom and gloom for Xbox, obviously. I think the platform is very strong, and I think Game Pass, again, the best deal in gaming, is going to just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger with a bigger and better offering. The literal Netflix of gaming, where you're going to have your Stranger Things games eventually, and you're going to have your Offices, and you're going to have your Too Hots to Handle, which is going to be a load of crap, but you're still going to play it because, god damn it, you just want to. It just feels good. The showcase did a great job for Game Pass, but I don't think it did a great job for Xbox Series X. I have a theory that there are still plenty of games to show. I think they had a distinct lack of third-party games to show off in the showcase, and I think that's because that those games that they're going to show off aren't on Game Pass, therefore they could not be in this showcase because everything on here was on Game Pass. I think a future event could be the place to show those games, things like Cyberpunk, Devil May Cry, things like Dying Light 2, which they've shown in the past. I think this showcase has given us a lot of concrete information, and for me, it was definitely enough to make a decision about which consoles I will be purchasing at launch. Granted, the price of the console will always be a factor, but I think the PlayStation 5 is definitely what I'm going for. As far as the Series X, definitely something I'm interested in the future, but for launch, not so sure. If you want me to give you a recommendation, if you're a big Spider-Man fan, definitely go with the PS5. You are going to get some of the best games to come out this generation. But if you're looking to get something more affordable and maybe a better deal where you can get a bigger spread of games, maybe consider Xbox Series X or even the potential Xbox Series S. Game Pass, xCloud, all that stuff is a very good deal, and for a lot of people that's going to be very, very enticing. But of course, you wouldn't just want my opinion. So I've got my buddy here, Carbon-based Bander to give you his opinion on which console he wants to get. Well, on the Sony side, you've got Kena, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Deathloop, you've got Ghostwire Tokyo, you've got Horizon Forbidden West, you've got Ratchet and Clank. But on the Xbox side, you do have Man Getting Hit by Football.
Best on Xbox Series X.
It's a tough decision. So then, what console do you think you're getting at launch? The Game Gear Micro. Huh? What do they mean they delayed it?